Hello everyone and welcome to Story Time. I'm Miss Isabelle and I'm here at the Graves Library. It's another wonderful summer week and we have another wonderful ocean-themed story for you. But before we get into that, of course I have a song for us to sing. So let's get our hands warmed up so we can move them around. And the first movement we're going to do might be a little familiar. We're going to be fish, just swimming along. Any direction you like. Fish swim. And what else? What else is in the ocean or at the beach? I think crabs. And they've got claws that pinch. They snap. So the crabs are snapping. And the sharks in the water are chomping. So make your hands into a shark mouth. Yes. And do you know what rays are? Some people call them stingrays or just rays. And they're kind of like the birds of the ocean. They sort of fly. So put your arms out like you have wings and be a ray gliding through the ocean. The rays are gliding. Okay, so the fish are swimming. The crabs are snapping. The sharks are chomping. And the rays are gliding. Okay, here we go. The fish are swimming today. The fish are swimming today. The ocean is a wonderful place. The fish are swimming today. The crabs are snapping today. The crabs are snapping today. The ocean is a wonderful place. The crabs are snapping today. The sharks are chomping today. The sharks are chomping today. The ocean is a wonderful place. The sharks are chomping today. The rays are gliding today. The rays are gliding today. The ocean is a wonderful place. The rays are gliding today. Great job, everybody. I think it's fun to pretend to be sea creatures. It's a great way to use your imagination. And the ocean is a wonderful place. So what else lives in the ocean? You may recognize a seahorse. And that's our story for today, is Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. And you can see lots of seahorses next to the front flap, which says, "What a good father Mr. Seahorse is." So that gives you an idea about where this story might be going. And our publisher for this week is Philomel Books. Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. "It's time for me to lay my eggs," she said. "Can I help?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Oh, yes, thank you," said Mrs. Seahorse. And she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. "I'll take good care of our eggs," said Mr. Seahorse. "I promise." As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Stickleback?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Delighted," replied Mr. Stickleback. "I just built a nest, and right away Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "Keep up the good work," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. So that fish is a stickleback. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. Pretty cool looking fish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Tilapia?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. "Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you are taking good care of them until they hatch." Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. "You must be very happy," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. And there's Mr. Tilapia. His mouth is full of eggs. Can't talk. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by several leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Curtis?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Perfectly fine," replied Mr. Curtis. "Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs, and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You are doing a good job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. Mr. Seahorse is upside down here. And here are the eggs, right on Mr. Curtis's head. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by, I wonder what's behind here, a stonefish hidden behind a rock. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. Mr. Pipe is a very long fish, and there's eggs all along his belly. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. "Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched. Now I'm babysitting." "You are doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. Look at all those baby fish. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that. At last, the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. "Oh no," said Mr. Seahorse, "I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own." And there's lots of tiny seahorses. The end. I think that's a really nice story and a really great way to learn about how parenting works in the ocean. So I really enjoyed that one. Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. Okay, that's it for story time this week, but I will be sure to see you again next time. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you again. Bye.